Coming up tonight on YCN News, escaped inmate Anthony Fitzgerald is captured by police and taken to a southern Vermont prison. A teenager involved in this summer's Springfield, Vermont shooting is beaten by another inmate. And a local garage gives us tips for your car's winter health. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening and welcome to this Tuesday edition of YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Anthony Fitzgerald is again an inmate in a southern Vermont prison. Authorities at the Springfield, Vermont Correctional Facility announced that Anthony Fitzgerald is now an inmate here after having escaped a Windsor jail yesterday and having been captured last night by police. The 23-year-old Fitzgerald earlier was convicted of indecent behavior involving a minor child. He used a pair of clippers to snip through a wire fence encircling an area he was landscaping at the Windsor prison, the Eagle Times reports. School leaders and staff in the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union remained vigilant throughout yesterday's search. Students at schools in Heartland, Windsor, West Windsor, and Wethersfield were dismissed at regular closing time. Teachers ensured students remained in the respective buildings until their rides arrived at the end of the school day. Fitzgerald was found around 5 p.m. near Thrasher Road in Wethersfield, the newspaper reports. A tip from the public helped police and a canine officer locate Fitzgerald. It remains to be seen if Fitzgerald will face additional criminal charges due to his unauthorized leave yesterday. A call from Vermont Department of Corrections Commissioner Andy Polito was not returned today. A teenager involved in this summer's Springfield, Vermont shooting has been beaten up by another inmate with a serious punch to the eye. 27-year-old Keith Gaston of Arlington, Vermont, punched 18-year-old Alex Corbosiero in the eye yesterday at 11:45 a.m. The fight was over the disputed results of a card game, state police say. Gaston is now also charged with aggravated assault. Corbosiero was transported to the Rutland Regional Medical Center by correctional staff and later released. Gaston and Corbosiero are currently being held at the correctional facility on unrelated charges. Gaston is set to appear on the assault charge in Rutland District Court on November 10th. If you live in New Hampshire, an earthquake drill is coming to you on October 16th. On October 16th at 10:16 a.m., millions of people across the world will practice drop, cover, and hold on while participating in the Great Shakeout Earthquake Drill. The New Hampshire Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, HSEM, encourages everyone to participate in the 2014 Great Northeast Shakeout. Director of New Hampshire Department of Safety's Homeland Security and Emergency Management, Perry Plummer, says the drill will give all residents and business owners the chance to prepare for natural disaster emergencies. Earthquakes do happen in New Hampshire. In fact, the U.S. Geological Survey forecasts larger and more damaging earthquakes along the East Coast than previously thought. New Hampshire is currently at medium risk of earthquakes, and residents should know how to be safe when an earthquake occurs. In 2013, about 25 million people participated worldwide. Currently, more than 350,000 participants have registered in the Northeast, along with more than 23 million worldwide. Participation is voluntary and can be as simple as a 60-second drill. Learn more about the Great Shakeout and event registration at shakeout.org/northeast. To learn more about NH alerts and other preparedness tools, visit readynh.gov. Turning to Vermont news, the state's 8 mayors today endorsed Governor Peter Shumlin for a third term. The mayors represent cities from all corners of Vermont, all political persuasions. In 2012, Shumlin received the endorsement of 7 of Vermont's mayors. When YCN News returns, we'll hear some tips from a local garage on caring for your car as the winter approaches.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Our next story is not about earthquakes, but it is weather related. The time to care for your car's winter health is approaching. Let's get some tips from a local garage.
So this time of year, when the nights are getting colder and the leaves are starting to turn, it's time to start thinking about winterizing your car. Because in this part of the country, the season is so volatile, we get such dramatic cold, and in the summer times it's so warm. It's a good thing to do seasonally. But especially things you want to pay attention to very closely are tread in your tires because of traction. We tend to have a lot more ice around this part of the country than we used to, so it's very important. You might even think about studding tires. But oil changes, checking to make sure that the coolant is at the proper freeze point and the right density, making sure that the battery is up to snuff and can start the car because it's under extra stress when it's cold out. It's much less efficient. And also, one thing that gets overlooked a lot is the air intake area for where your interior heat comes in. It's otherwise known as like a duct, but that gets overlooked a lot, and it gets packed with leaves and pine needles and whatnot through the year. And it seems like people don't pay too much attention to that, but it's important so it doesn't stress your blower motor, and you actually get good fresh air into the cabin area of the car and allows your heater to work properly. But just to make sure that generally the car isn't going to give you problems when it's extra stressed in the cold weather. Brakes are important as well, but think about winterizing your car this time of year.
Maybe we won't get as much snow as last year. And speaking of the weather, here's a shout out to another fall foliage picture taker. Today's Photo Hound Award goes to Jasmine Modi. When YCN News returns, we'll take a look at some segments produced by kids at the CATV Video Camp.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Now Matt McDonald will have a look at our weather for the next few days and then move on to sports.
Thanks, Rose. Tonight we're expecting more rain showers after 10 p.m. with patchy fog. Skies will be cloudy with lows in the 50s. Tomorrow morning will be foggy until around 11 a.m. We have a 70% chance of rain expected before 1 p.m. with winds up to 10 miles per hour and highs around 66 degrees. Tomorrow night will be partly cloudy with a low of 40 degrees and southwest winds at 5 miles per hour. Thursday should brighten up with mostly sunny skies and highs in the upper 50s. Thursday night will have lows around 41 degrees with partly cloudy skies. Here's a look at our northeastern satellite map. And now it's time for our fall foliage report. We will keep you updated on the turning of the foliage in New Hampshire and Vermont counties. Now let's see what's coming up on our community calendar. Tomorrow in New Hampshire, the Grantham and Wilmette Select Boards will hold their meetings at 5 p.m. In Claremont, the City Council meeting will begin at 6:30 p.m. In Vermont, the Wethersfield Proctor Library in Ascutney will hold a Shakespeare discussion at 6:30 p.m. Remember, you can submit local events from your community by sending them to news@ycnnow.com. Turning to high school sports, we have two local games worth mentioning. In boys soccer, Kearsarge faced Newfound in an extremely close game. Both teams fought hard, but Kearsarge managed a 1-0 lead over Newfound. Also in boys soccer, in Vermont, Woodstock and Green Mountain Valley went into overtime during a game. Neither team could score. The game was called at 1-1.
Thanks, Matt. When YCN News continues, we'll join Capital Connections' John O'Connor.
The YCN News continues in a moment.